in face across the whole state is something that I think we're very lucky here in this state that is very welcoming, and we've seen the positive impacts it's having in our communities. I'll just quickly introduce as I go through here. I've got Sam Groff, who's my deputy leader. He's also got sports events and hospitality. Sam, and Special Minister for State. Sam's down in Peam, and he's a representative of the community that goes along the coast down there. So it's probably one of the one of the most beautiful parts of Victoria. And Sam's come on board as a deputy leader and done a fantastic role in getting out through the whole state, really focused on key things with sports and hospitality and events in the Victorian market and how important it is. Renee Heath, Dr. Renee Heath, who's based in Pakenham for her office, and she covers in the eastern region, effectively from Pakenham all the way out to the New South Wales border, covers some of the most beautiful coastlines, up through some of the most beautiful forests as well. Renee also is my PALSEC, helps me out, Assistant Minister, in relation to multicultural affairs, and goes out to a lot of events when I can't attend. So please, when you see her, welcome her. She's been a fantastic addition to the team and doing a great job as well. And Evan Mulholland, you all know Evan.
Yes.
Evan's one of the hardest workers I've seen here in the north, and I think the hardest work we've had in the north for a long time. He is a deputy leader in the upper house. He's got multicultural affairs and major projects. But I think the one thing that I would say that's one of Evan's biggest strengths, when we talk about our role sometimes think it's work. And they always say, if you want to have a great life, make sure you do something you love and it never feels like a day of work. Every time I'm out with Evan, you can tell he genuinely loves meeting different people from different cultures across the north. And it shows because I think people reciprocate that with him and love working with him in the effort he's got to try and assist our brand out through the northern region. So thank you so much for that, Evan. I'm going to be very quick, and then I'm going to pass on to these guys to do a quick introduction of themselves. But just so you know, we're very focused on that next election, and we're focused on the things that are important to every person in this room, but every person that you're going to be reporting to as well. And the things that we know are really, really important at the moment. One of the things that came up now, I'll start on the negative, was unfortunately crime here in Victoria. And for those that haven't seen, Northland Shopping Centre again went into lockdown today with a stolen car that was driven through the centre. We're lucky no injuries, but it's not the first time it's been locked down. I'm out in the southeast, Fountain Gate Shopping Centre. Too often we see knife crime, people running around with machetes. These things are a huge problem, and we know that we have to address them, and it can't be just a one solution fix all. But one of the things that's the biggest fault through our system is you can go into the court system and be out in 90 minutes. You can be out faster than it takes for the Victoria Police to do the paperwork and out committing crimes again. So that's why the Victorian Liberals have made sure that we've got a policy that takes the next election, that if you break bail, you face jail. And we think that if you get bail, it's a privilege. And if you go out there and continue to commit crimes, then you should be taken out of the system, put into jail to ensure community safety is our absolute priority. The second thing that's really important to us is home ownership. Home ownership should not be a pipe dream that your kids never get a chance to have a look at, and we're heading in that direction right now. Houses are becoming unaffordable because this government has failed when it comes to a plan for what we're going to do to increase supply. They can talk about it and put it in a book, but it's actually putting it into action, particularly in areas people want to live. You can't dictate to people that you're going to live in one spot. You have to actually have options and alternatives. High-rise living, not for me. But many in this room might think that's the best option. You'd love to do that. Land, where you have to mow the lawn, love it. Some of you would think to yourself, I don't want to ever touch a lawnmower. And that's why we have to have the alternatives and options when it comes to planning here in our state. But most importantly, it's the tax that's getting in the way. So we hear a lot about many property taxes. The first one that we're focused on is the fact that if a first home buyer wants to buy a home, that they can be paying stamp duty effectively as much or more than their deposit. So we have said that any person who buys their first home in the state, up to $1 million, we will make sure that you will not have to pay any land tax for that property. That could save you up to $55,000, which is equivalent to putting in your deposit to get you in your first home. And in Victoria, the median house price is around about that $918,000. So that is around about that $50,000 saving for anyone that wants to buy their first home in the state. We know how important gas is. I had David Davis was walking around before. He had to go back into the chamber. He's very passionate on this. We need to keep the gas tap on. We know how important gas is to keeping energy prices down, and this government's put a roadblock in the way, and we should be doing the exploration to ensure that we can keep gas in the system so you can use it at home, we can use it in businesses, and we can still continue manufacturing here in the state. We can't afford to live without it. That's just the reality of our energy supply here in our state. We've been very lucky for a long time to have a cheap energy supply. If you get in the way too often and try and interrupt the market, we're going to end up with unaffordable energy, and the people that will pay the most are the most vulnerable in the community. And we need to ensure that they don't have that put on them where they have to make a decision of turning a heater on or having dinner at night. Because in Victoria, in Australia, that should never be an alternative. It should be just a given, you can have both. And finally, a very important one for us is education. And we know education is all about choice. Every person in the state should have a choice. It's a really great way to turn this one. No, try it there. Go there. That won't. We'll work it out. And every person in our state should have an option and choice when it comes to education. And that's why we've committed that the new tax that the government put on around payroll tax for schools, we would get rid of that tax so you can have the choice without having any concern that all of a sudden you have to pay an extra $1,000 or $2,000 to give your child an education. And I know personally, out in the growth corridors, we've got many people from different backgrounds where education in their communities is paramount. And they love the choice of sending them to one of the private schools. And at the moment you've got religious schools as well. They are mostly exempt because they're under the threshold. Because the threshold's not indexed, over time each and every one of those private schools will have a new tax, and each and every parent who already worked 2 jobs to put their kids through these education systems will then have to pay more, and that is simply unfair.